Hi, I'm Phil Rude, and I'm an independent comic book artist and writer and former stay at home cat dad. Today, I'm inking a panel from my comic Roadrunners. This is from chapter 9, which I am currently approaching the finish line on. This page is drawn on Strathmore Smooth Bristol, and I'm using a variety of pens, various brush pens, felt tip, fine liners, kind of just whatever is close to me that I knew would get the job done. Today, I'm going to talk about obscure movies and where they live. A couple weeks ago, my wife Christy and I were hanging out on the couch on a Friday night, kind of scrolling through Pluto TV's offerings and landing on the feel good laugh riot that is Terms of Endearment. I've never seen this movie in its entirety, and this would be no exception as we landed somewhere in the middle of everything going on. But I've seen bits and pieces of a lot of it enough to know the gist of what it's about and that it's an emotional ride. I was really unprepared, though, for the part where Deborah Winger is dying and the rest of the family leaves the hospital. And Shirley MacLaine ends up slapping her grandson for talking shit about his mom. And everything that's wrapped up in that, it just hit me like an emotional tidal wave. And I was like, Jesus H. Christ, I can't even deal with this movie right now. It's the end of the week. I was just not ready for it. So I went to the Pluto menu to find something else that would be less emotionally taxing. I needed to find it quickly, just to get off of Terms of Endearment. And then I saw what would do the trick, and I said a sentence that has never, ever been spoken by a single person in the history of watching movies. I said, "Oh, thank God, Rambo 3 is on." I didn't want to watch the movie where Sylvester Stallone contributes to the events of 9/11, but I did need an obscure, dumb, blow-uppy kind of movie to balance my James L. Brooks instigated emotional spiral. I just needed to even out for a minute. My whole point of this story is to say how much I think Pluto TV has taken the place of old school basic cable in a very important way. Basic cable used to have a lot of kind of anonymous, I don't know if that's the best term for it, but like kind of mid tier, mid budget, maybe less culturally relevant of the moment, older movies that played regularly and seemingly kind of randomly. Because I think they were cheap for basic cable channels to license and keep in their rotations. They weren't blockbusters in high demand. They were just the kinds of movies that we complain aren't getting made today. They're movies, for quote unquote grown-ups. They're adult dramas, thrillers, cop movies, suspense movies, science fiction that isn't Star Wars/Trek, mysteries, stuff like that. Things that you forgot existed until you randomly found them on like a lazy Saturday afternoon when you were just flipping through cable channels. And then you turn them on, you'd maybe fall asleep for part of it because it's a lazy day. Maybe you were hungover. And then you'd wake up and still somehow just kind of know what was going on. They were just sort of, uh, just, I don't know if they're casual, just kind of movies you wouldn't think to put on until they just showed up on your TV. And this is also where you'd find kind of like the hidden gems, the movies that weren't talked about, but some of them were like real bangers. You discovered underrated movies on basic cable channels or rediscover something you hadn't seen in years. I used to work nights in a warehouse, and I would come home at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I would just turn on TV and just like not even cable, just like a local channel. Just they were always showing weird stuff in the middle of the night. Some of it was infomercials, some of it was just like reruns of the Tonight Show, or sometimes they would be movies. And one night I came home and I found what would become one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. I found Miller's Crossing was playing on one of my local channels. It was uh, probably around 10 years old at the time. And it was one of those movies of theirs that nobody really talked about. And I only vaguely remembered it coming out, seeing a commercial for it when it was coming out, but I had never seen it. And this night I just sort of randomly found it. It was about 5 minutes into the movie, and I just hung in with it and loved it. I watched it, and to this day, it remains one of my favorite Coen movies. I maintain that's one of their best, and I think it's one of the great stylized gangster movies of all time. And I just, randomly found it one night. My point of this is not to do an ad for Pluto TV, which is where a lot of these movies live now. I try not to put any platform or app up on a pedestal because I know that just eventually leads to disappointment. I'm simply expressing that since cable TV is not a presence in my home or in many others, as more and more people sort of cut the cable, um, cut the cord, and there are no video stores left where you can just sort of stumble on these kind of forgotten movies. They still existed in video stores. You would just find them and go, "Oh, well, I've never heard of this," or "I kind of remember this. Let me check it out." Um, and big streamers seem to have a lot of blind spots when it comes to these kinds of movies, or they're buried somewhere in there. They're just some of them are just hard to find. And I'm glad there's a place like Pluto where these movies can still exist and be found by people who either remember them or by younger people who never knew they existed. Not that Rambo 3 has aged in a particularly graceful way that makes it ripe for discovery among today's youth, but you get my general meaning. That's going to do it for me this time. Please subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video, and go to philrudeart.com where you can check out my blog, my shop. You can find where to find me on social media, and you can read my comic Roadrunners for free. You can also read it for free on the Webtoon app if that's more convenient for you. And Roadrunners is also available in my shop as physical copies. I've made the first 5 chapters available as ash cans that you can hold in your hand. You can order them right now. It is U.S. only until I figure out a more uh, cost friendly way to ship overseas. It's quite expensive right now. But I am looking for a way to do that. So yeah, check that out. They're all available there. And until we meet again, I remind you to take care of yourselves, take care of each other and your communities, and especially the most vulnerable people within them. They need your help. Thank you very much for watching, and find something weird and obscure on Pluto TV this weekend. Let me know what you watched in the comments.